Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped. Something.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny. I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
All right. So, any parts you'd like to get to know better, change your relationship with?
As usual, the last few episodes, quite a few of them still.
Yeah, I remember we talked about probably wanting to follow up on some of those.
Yeah, but I guess, I don't know if it added up because over time, how should I put it? I just get more aware of parts. The more we work together, the more I do written IFS myself and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, because an older part I don't think we talked about yet came up again big time the last few days. That is the part that it doesn't feel overwhelmed itself, but it's incredibly afraid of overwhelm.
Okay.
And this fear has been basically paralyzing me the last few days.
Okay. All right. Where do you notice it in or around your body?
Stronger on the right side of my chest, on the right side of the neck, down towards the right elbow and the right middle finger. Also on the left side, down towards the left elbow, but more the emphasis of the feeling is stronger on the triceps going down. So it's let's say, a stripe of the arm where it's going down.
Okay.
And the left side of the chest as well, but very, let's say, gently.
Okay. And how are you feeling towards it now?
On the one hand, compassionate. On the other hand, afraid of this paralyzation.
Okay. So, correct me if I get any of this wrong. So, the part that is causing these sensations is a fear of being overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And you're experiencing compassion for it, but you're also experiencing fear of being overwhelmed. So is that you're experiencing the parts feelings?
I'm also experiencing, I should put it, because basically being paralyzed, not being able to take action, that's scary. So I guess that's maybe another part I'm blended with.
Okay. So the fear of paralysis is different from, maybe different from this fear of being overwhelmed.
Because this fear of paralysis, I just noticed the more we get into it, the more I feel it basically in my bowel.
Okay.
Like the left side of the bowel. I can't pinpoint to like a specific part of it, but it's on the left side, yeah.
And that's fear of paralysis. Okay.
This feels like a separate, entirely separate sensation.
Okay. Yeah. Let all those parts know they're welcome, and simultaneously, if that one is not one you want to focus on now, then just see if you can ask for some space and see how it responds.
Basically, this part that's scared of the paralyzing effect of the part that's afraid of overwhelm. This part is quite a bit clingy because it wants us like to do something. Basically against the part that's afraid of overwhelm.
Yeah.
But with this clinginess, I noticed like from somewhere far in the back, like that's a noises of a part that's annoyed by clinginess.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but basically, I promised it that I will get back to this part that's afraid of being paralyzed.
Okay.
So we can focus on the part that's afraid of overwhelm.
Yeah. And did that help it soften back?
Like it's like it just said, it's softened back. It's not gone or something, but it's softened back.
Great. Okay. So the fear of overwhelm, now you're feeling more compassionate towards it? Is that the dominant feeling that you're having?
Actually, it's not the dominant feeling because the first thing was like, where do I even start? Because I can understand the fear of overwhelm completely.
Okay, so there's a concern maybe about not being able to understand it and not knowing where to start?
Not about not knowing, not understanding it, but as I said, like not knowing where to start.
Yeah, I get that. It's happened to me just about every time I've been in the client seat, so sure. Okay, well, there's no way to do this wrong. I think that as long as we're listening and staying compassionate and curious, whatever comes up is fine. And and sometimes nothing comes up, I'm okay with just sitting, just sitting and listening for what does come up. So I guess you could ask or check in with that part that has the concern about not knowing where to start. If it'll soften back, if it will just let us listen.
It's pretty much softened back already after I was telling you about that. And then basically the part that's afraid of being or getting overwhelmed was like, how could they do that to us?
The part that is afraid of being overwhelmed felt that way or said that?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because last week, a lot of not really new things came onto my plate, but things that have been unresolved for decades. And so it's like, and I'm only getting started with integrating all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the main reason for it being afraid of overwhelm.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah. Just let it know that. Does it have more it wants you to know?
It basically wants me to not have to deal with these things, which is why it's paralyzing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's the concern would happen if you did deal with them?
Interestingly, it's not really concerned with death like many other parts were in our last conversations. But this one is more over concerned with getting to the brink of insanity.
Okay. Okay. And are you okay just sitting with that and learning more about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, you can ask. You could just ask it to show you or tell you more about that, or where that came from, or what that might look like.
Like now it would like me to just basically run from everything. Like it's shooting a lot of energy into my feet because it would like me to run here.
Did we get cut off? I thought you said something like it would like you to run if.
It would just like me to run from everything.
Yeah. Okay.
It's been shooting a lot of energy into my feet now the last, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes because of that.
Okay. And of course, you know that you have all the power here to go forward or go backward or hang up or whatever feels right for you.
It doesn't mean the call with you. It means, let's say, I don't know, let's say life in general.
Yeah. And how do you feel about just staying with that, learning more about that?
I'm totally up for it.
Great. Great. Okay.
Something beautiful I'm discovering on the whole with, let's say, the parts I'm getting blended is that with the stuff I begin to integrate, for example, now in this conversation with you, sitting with this part's urge to just flee from everything, as I don't want to flee, as I want to take on the responsibility, now appeared angry parts that, let's say, want to support me in taking the responsibility.
Okay.
So basically, as we had this subject of anger issues in the past, not being able to access anger, I noticed now, since this last week, step by step, seems like now more anger parts are starting to appear without overwhelming me.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're wanting to appear in a supportive way.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's great. Need those parts.
Oh, yeah.
You mentioned wanting to take on more responsibility. Did that come from the part that wanted to run, or did that feel like it was other parts or you saying you want to take on more responsibility?
Basically, other parts and me.
Okay.
Because in the end, nothing will change if I don't take on the responsibility for myself.
Yes. Makes sense to me. But it sounds like the part that we were talking with has kind of the opposite perspective, right?
Exactly, but basically he doesn't know better, as all the authority figures in my childhood never took on any responsibility.
Okay. And as you learn that about him, how do you feel just learning that about him?
Even more understanding, even more compassionate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if there are parts that are saying take on responsibilities, if those feel like manager parts or angry parts, might want to ask them to step back just so you can keep learning about this first part.
This angry part that voiced itself just earlier, that part is still basically it's sort of step back, like it never went to the front, it just made itself heard for a brief moment.
It's great. It's great. It's chiming in on how it can be of service.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So you were learning about stuff that was going on in childhood. This part was showing you, or is related to this part?
It's related to this part because basically there's a ton of stuff there from childhood that I can now integrate. There's work-related stuff. There's, as we talked in the last conversation, love-related stuff, and so on. So, with all these things in my life simultaneously, this part is afraid of getting overwhelmed.
Is there anything, or is there more that it wants to show you about maybe where that comes from, or if there's a time in your life or an age that it feels like that's kind of tied to?
Basically, in teenage years, when I wanted to run, but wasn't really able to.
Okay. Yeah. So this part has this overwhelm that it's wanting to protect you from, and it's having these, I guess, these memories or this experience of this other part, this teenage part that wasn't able to run. So it sounds like this part has a protective intent.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And can you show it some appreciation for that?
I did, and it's thankful, and I'm thankful, and also I talked to it about the negative effect of basically making me immobile, so to say, and it just didn't understand that effect.
Well, yeah.
So it was shocked that it can have such consequences.
Yeah, that's great that you're kind of validating. It's interesting that these parts are really powerful and they push us around, and then when we show them often how powerful they are, they, we go towards that and say, "Hey, you're pushing me around. This is having this effect." And then they are able to see it and yeah, see if that's not what their intention is. So that's awesome. What would it rather be doing with its energy?
Basically a light version of this. So like it would like to be more of an intuitive guidepost when something isn't right for me, to let me know to either pivot or leave it completely.
Yeah. It's great. Okay. And what does it need from you going forward?
To communicate with it more often. And so basically when I notice it coming up, to actually listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then show that I'm aware of it, and when possible, then act on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for the start, to just communicate more with it.
You mentioned early in our conversation, these other parts that were coming up. One that kind of wanted to do something against this part. Would now be a good time to kind of invite them in and just kind of see if they'd like to reevaluate or change their roles at all.
Yeah, sure. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the parts that didn't like this part, just kind of show them your work.
The subject of the internal mistrust is still, let's say it's still a thing, but it's trusting me that I'm trusting the part that's afraid of overwhelm.
Yeah. So it sees the system at play, and it sees that. Yeah.
So it's beautiful. Not trust. So so it's not trusting directly the part that's afraid of overwhelm, but it's trusting me that I'm trusting that part.
Right. That's perfect. Yeah, it's kind of trusting the process. It's kind of trusting that
exactly
that you're able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
This makes me realize, because how should I put it? Because this is like a constantly lingering part that I never notice as a pain consciously, but I know, because that's why I overanalyze too much, because I know I'm very afraid of being either not understood or misunderstood. So that would also, I just noticed because of this explaining everything, that this would also be a very interesting part to get into.
Yeah. And I was going to bring up the part that was, concerned about not knowing where to start. Does that have?
True.
Is that kind of the same part of concerned about, where to go?
I would say this is true. This was a different part, a caretaking part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because being so, on the one hand, compassionate, on the other hand, sorry for this part, and being aware of the pain, why this part is so afraid, like at which point of the fears of the part, where to start.
Yeah, okay. So you'd like to work with this fear of being misunderstood part?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. Where does that come up? How do you notice that in or around your body?
Like I immediately noticed it at my throat, towards the chin. Basically in the center of the throat, from the chin down in direction of the heart, but it stops somewhere around the top of the chest area.
Mm-hmm. And how are you feeling towards it?
there's a part in me that's annoyed at it because it's annoyed at the over-explaining and over-analyzing. But
Right.
But of course, from my adult self, I'm always compassionate with it because I understand why.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
just because of understanding, but yeah, I'm just from the adult self, I'm compassionate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the fear of being misunderstood part, what does it want you to know?
It wants me to communicate better, and it wants me to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how do you respond to it when you hear it say that?
Objectively speaking, I don't know if we can communicate better, but I agree on being more heard.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And does it make sense, that this part feels this way? Are you able to kind of validate at least its experience in feeling that way?
Absolutely, because I used to be crippling shy when I used to be this morbidly obese kid and teenager.
Yeah. And what is this part afraid will happen if you are misunderstood or not heard? What's the fear behind that?
Multiple things. The first one that came up was being wronged, being left alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, these are the two main things that are at least coming up now.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I mean, that sound like painful experiences, right? Being wronged, being left alone. And it wants to protect you from that.
And now there was just an angry, supportive part who was like, let's go out and kill them all. Let's slit their throats. And that was pretty much it. But basically against others instead of against myself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and are you responding to that in the same way? It feels like it's popping in to lend some of its energy.
True.
Does that feel like a constructive addition, or is that something that you want to address? And
it feels like a very constructive addition. Of course, I'm not going to kill anyone, but in general, being able to access the angry energy is very constructive.
Yeah. No, I hear that. It's, it's empowering. Yeah. Doesn't mean you're going to go kill people, but you having that energy and having that kind of, even just allowing yourself to have that fantasy can be empowering. Yeah. Okay, so did the fear of being misunderstood part, was it able to receive your appreciation for it? How did it respond?
It didn't really receive my appreciation, but I honestly have to say that this getting to know just now, I didn't really give it appreciation. I have
Okay.
to admit, I didn't. The interesting thing is, I was now sort of I was sort of dissociated with it.
Yeah.
I guess I wasn't fully in my
The anger
adult
came up.
True, but I mean that was even already before the anger came up.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I probably am blended with another part because I couldn't give it the appreciation. That's a question.
Okay. Yeah. Find out. Is there a part that doesn't want you to appreciate it?
Yeah, a young, angry part that is angry at the part that's afraid of being misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That part was like, yeah, because people think you're socially retarded. Then I showed this part that basically these days people don't at all anymore. And then it visualized to me a scenario from the youth, which showed me, yeah, it's very young and it thinks that we are very young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like you're working with a lot of parts here, and it sounds like you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So, yeah, what's next?
I apologized to this angry part for having to have witnessed all these painful situations in life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm asking it to tell me everything it can and wants to tell me about basically anything, whatever comes up.
That's awesome.
It's really interesting how these young angry parts are so different from the supportive angry parts. I noticed that the supportive angry parts must be much older, like much more recent creations.
Uh-huh. What else do you notice about the differences?
Because, for example, this part is mixed with the part that wants to die since early teenage years.
Yeah.
Like it shares a lot of the same energy.
Is the older supportive angry part, does it feel less faceted? Does it feel like it has kind of a black and white nature compared to this younger one?
You mean with the older, the more recent, like any of the supportive ones?
The angry supportive part.
I don't know if more black and white, but I would say it's like, let's say, more stable, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Or let's say more balanced.
Yeah. Okay. I was only asking, it's just been my experience with a lot of times the older feeling protectors have a kind of two-dimensional quality of on-off solutions, and then the younger parts often have these much richer, they seem more like people. That's just kind of been my own internal system.
You mean the younger parts seem more like people because they exist for so many more years?
The younger parts, for me, I can sit and talk with them endlessly. Whereas a lot of the protectors, it's almost like they're just tools, they're just be busy. Like that's all you have to say is be busy. Okay. Kind of, they just have these kind of on off buttons.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's just kind of something I've noticed in me. Anyway, sorry to derail us. So this younger angry part was what you were saying. It has this kind of relation to this feeling of wanting to die that you had for a long time.
Yeah, because it's just really tired of it all.
Yeah. Is there a part that it protects?
It doesn't really give me an answer on that.
Okay. The reason I ask that is I was looking kind of to see if this part is an exile, or if it's a protector. So if it doesn't have an answer, it could be because it is an exile.
That makes absolutely sense.
And we can use that to inform how you might want to continue working with it. Although fundamentally, as you probably know, it's all kind of similar, just getting to know them and seeing what you can offer them and how you can get closer.
Basically, it wants us to be left alone because it's already so tired.
Yeah. You could maybe let it know that that's your goal is to take away the burdens that it has, and just show it that you can take on the things that it's concerned about, that you want to.
I offered it, let's say, alternative roles, like, for example, to be the voice when, for example, I have to defend myself verbally against something.
Mm-hmm.
But then it brought up a very good point, that before we could really do that, I will have to get to know the part that's ashamed of my free, open, playful nature, that is ashamed of me expressing myself.
Yes. Excellent.
Because that shameful part, to be honest, got that shameful part I got fully into awareness today for the first time, just like an hour or so before our call as well.
Yeah.
Because I tried this playful part that is looking for a playmate. So we talked about in the last episode, I tried to be with this part without getting a playmate or without having a playmate, like just by myself in my apartment. And this triggered the shame for myself so incredibly hard. Even though I'm completely alone in the apartment, I even closed curtains so no one potentially could see from the outside, but still, this shame was incredibly strong.
Wow. Okay. You're kind of blowing my mind with just how many parts you're working with, and it's hard for me to keep up. It's not a bad thing. I mean, I think it's incredible.
I guess that it makes sense why this one part is so afraid of overwhelm, right?
Yeah, that does make sense. It does make a lot of sense. Yeah, and I know that you know that it's a process and it's going to take time. I know that's something that we all kind of struggle with, wanting it faster. But I was just saying, I'm kind of at a loss when it comes to guiding these conversations sometimes, or right now, because there's so much going on, and you're handling so much of it. I mean, just the way you're going towards it all, and you're doing so much on your own. It's really incredible.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just want to commend you on that. And working with those younger parts, especially if there's still shame around that, that's tough. I don't know if you've gone through that. Like, have you unburdened that part? Have you been through that kind of process with it?
To be honest, I haven't fully unburdened a part yet, because I'm not sure where, why exactly, if it's the worthlessness we discovered, or because also in regards to the things that I can start integrating after last week, this decades-old stuff. To be honest, aside from the wish to die since teenage years, even earlier, I always had this, because I always, as always, I repressed that, of course, as well. But there always was this lingering feeling of I shouldn't exist in the first place. Even like this is, I definitely remember this to be older than the wish to die.
Okay, yeah. Should exist in the first place. And is that analogous? Is that the same as worthlessness?
That's where I'm not sure about. Basically, that's where it comes in, that I'm not sure about it just yet, because I only could get this enough into awareness to at least start to accept that I feel this just also recently.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So yeah, possibly 3 or 4 different kind of exiles we're talking about here. You know, shame of free and open play, that definitely sounds like one. Where feelings of worthlessness definitely sounds like one to me. And yeah, feeling of not wanting to exist. I don't know, that could be either.
But with the not existing also today, not actually today already, but today it became stronger, but it's not an embodied part yet. Like other parts pushed it out very quickly after it turned up. Basically a supportive part, like an angry supportive part that's that was like immediately when it then came up today more intensely was like why the fuck should it be my problem? My parents put me into the world, so they it was their choice. So it should have been their responsibilities. They should have taken up on and everything. And so basically, I can't blame myself for that. But I don't know if it's the angry energy or something. But this was only a few seconds, and this part was pushed away again.
Yeah. Well, I'm hesitant to ask more about that, only in the interest of time. How can I support you? How can I help in your work going forward? Because you're clearly doing a lot, and I want to make sure that that our conversations are, that you're getting what you want out of them, and that I can support you in any other way, outside of these conversations.
That would be absolutely amazing. What do you think? Because basically, I used to do like big journals up until this summer. Then I switched to like let's call it micro journaling. That whenever something comes up, I quickly write down a sentence to it or so. And so, for example, I wrote down already a lot of parts that briefly came into awareness over the last weeks. And so basically there's a lot of things that want my attention. So because we were already talking in the past about realistically only addressing a part at a time. And as I have if I would make a list of the parts that I would like to address, basically just your input about which part seems to be like one that would like really need the most attention. Often I notice then when something, I don't know, because days being individual, then like for example in context of the day, something like a different part needs my attention, then of course I go to the different part. But if that wouldn't happen, like your input on what in your opinion I should potentially prioritize, for example. and how I would go about unburdening, for example, myself doing it alone, because this is also something that I noticed then, let's say, being triggered as you were commending me for my strength, because there's probably related to worthlessness, I suppose, or maybe it's the worthlessness that I or that parts instantly try to keep me small. So like it didn't really want to accept the commandment, and it was like, you're not that strong and so on. And that's also one of the reasons why I'm afraid of unburdening myself, for example.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Or not just in myself.
I'm commending you for I'm commending you for doing the work. You know, I don't have judgment about how, if it's, I can't see inside your system and how long this will take for you, but I can see that you are doing it. And pretty much every time we talk, you say, "Oh, I just learned this today. I just learned this yesterday." So that's what I'm commenting on. So I heard two questions. One is about big journaling, small journaling, and where to go first. When you have
exactly. If when I would have a list of parts, like which ones, in your opinion, would make sense to prioritize above others, unless specific in a certain day, another part needs my attention more.
Yes. Okay. And then your other question was about solo unburdening.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The first question. So, prioritizing parts to go to. I have a lot to say about it, so I'm trying to think how to summarize it. So I think about protectors and exiles, and like I was saying earlier, a lot of my protectors don't feel like whole people. They feel kind of cartoonish, and I basically, my checking in with them is kind of, are you okay? Are you doing that thing? It's very, now sometimes there does need to be more of a conversation, but I often don't feel like I have a big story to learn necessarily from a lot of them, or they don't have kind of historical memories and insights the way that the exiles do. That's just for me. So the way that guides my checking in is that to me they're kind of like the warning lights on the car, and I can glance at the dashboard and they're off. That's good, good enough, kind of. When it comes to the exile parts or young parts, I have a more kind of fatherly, loving, familial relationship, and with them, I think of them as children, and I think about, yes, if I had 10 children in the external world, what would my morning routine look like? How would I say hi to all of them? And I do visualize that. I visualize myself in a house with dozens of bedrooms. I think about calling them all to dinner, and sometimes they don't all show up. Sometimes some of them have stayed in their room for a week. And so I don't know that there's a right answer as far as, like you would say to a parent, if you had 10 kids, which one should I talk to first when I get home?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Kind of like, there might be something to say about the age of them. So for me, yes, the 2-year-old kind of parts need a different type of attention, or maybe a different frequency than teenage parts. For me, teenage parts, they want to be out out and about and kind of getting in trouble, and they don't need as much checking in. So that's just my parts in these parts, and I'm referring to parts that have been unburdened. So that might not, correlate to parts that have not. I would say probably definitely does not apply to parts that have not been unburdened. Is any of that helpful at all?
Absolutely. Also, this
Okay.
makes me curious about those cartoonish parts, because I noticed over the time since I started on your suggestion with doing written parts work, that some of the parts, like some parts, for example, that are old, as in like super young from their age, so they exist since, for example, 30 years or something. These parts, when I first conversed with them, suddenly I wrote down on 8 pages by hand. But other parts, for example, maybe half a page or even less. So I'm curious, like, how did you figure out that these are, let's call them cartoonish parts?
Yeah. So again, for me, that's one of the biggest distinctions between what I'm calling protectors and exiles, is that the protectors have, in my system, the protectors often have a very black and white kind of, they have a role, and they do their job, and it's kind of all they know. It's all they care about. They don't care about other people's jobs in the systems. So, and yes, if I was journaling with them or learning about them, it would probably be similar, where I'm finding half a page of information compared to an exile that for me it's kind of endless. But I don't know how much that's in congruence with the textbooks or other people's systems. So,
but it makes absolutely sense.
Yeah. Your other question was about unburdening solo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to give a short answer, I would say don't. I would say, yeah, if you're gonna go to Exiles and you're gonna do unburdening, and you have someone you can trust that you want to work with, then I'd recommend doing that. And it's not because you can't. It's just a lot. It's a lot. It's like trying to drive a car and change a diaper at the same time. It's just a lot going on, and so it's just really nice to have someone, if all they're doing is holding up the map and just, which is what I feel like I'm doing. I have the kind of roadmap and can help remind you where we might be headed. But so unless you have a lot of experience with it, and that might be another answer. It might get easier over time if you've unburdened 5 parts, then sure, maybe the 6th one is much easier to do alone. But I listen to Dick Schwartz, for example, saying he doesn't do that. He doesn't try to do that solo. The unburdening of exiles. So
I never knew.
Yeah.
Because basically my solo work, it so far always came down to, let's say, teamwork, so that I'm working together with the parts as they are.
And I think doing that with protectors makes a lot of sense. It's efficient. It sounds like you're fully adept at doing that and taking the right steps there. That's what I'm hearing, at least. But these exiles, they're exiled for a reason. There's a reason why. I mean, they're called exiles because they're hard to get in touch with. They're outside of our normal experience and awareness. We don't want to go there. It's hard. So.
That's a very good point.
That would be my short answer: is to just do it with someone. However, that doesn't mean don't contact them. It doesn't mean ignore them. You can do a lot still. And also unburdening isn't an on and off state necessarily. You can do someone a little favor. It doesn't mean you've completely solved all their problems. So I don't know. I'm just saying that there's a lot of complexities or kind of gray areas as to all of it, and it's hard to say, prescriptively, here's how to do it, or here's what to do.
And thinking about Exiles, for example, the worthlessness, we've been to 2 or 3 conversations ago. Just thinking that basically since then I wasn't able to go there anymore. Okay. Just being an example about it being literally exiled.
Right. And that might be also just something to keep in mind about, about your pace, is that might be an indicator that the pace is too fast. If, if you're unburdening exile and then working with 30 other parts and kind of not getting back to it, that, we often talk about like checking with this part for 3 weeks. Well, most people I talk to are calling me every week and they're talking about something different every week. And half the time I just want to say, wait, just check in with that part for 3 weeks, just do that. I know that sounds, it's, when we're ready to move on, we're ready to move on, and we have other parts coming up. But I do often wonder, what would it look like if that was the pace, if you really just focused on one part every 3 weeks, would that be kind of actually more efficient, even though in the moment it feels slower? So
I think in general it would definitely be more efficient, but I don't think it's, at least I noticed for myself, it's not, how should I put it, that, let's say, soloed off possible, because just with this, let's call it massive fragmentation that are not there, and constantly, how to put it, and constantly becoming more aware of this massive fragmentation. So I'm always checking in, but like every day outside of the written parts work as well. But this written about part, I mean, the checking in outside of the written is like that I'm listening into I'm aware of all the parts I've already contacted so far. So I'm listening into like whatever or whichever part comes up, but I don't really specifically address them in this way.
I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that. And I also just wanted to say that I wasn't suggesting that someone necessarily only talk to one part for 3 weeks. More of a thought experiment of especially if, as you said, you go to a part and then you've kind of lost contact with it. That might just indicate juggling too many parts.
True, but
in too short of a time.
This I absolutely, basically, with this I absolutely agree. But I'm curious, as how should I put it? I lost contact, but I didn't lose. Well, how should I put it? I don't know if it's a losing contact, because I noticed basically protection mechanisms coming up whenever I tried to go to it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So maybe and
So yeah,
like
you're
it
still
stayed in my awareness. So
right.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's an opportunity to do more parts work. Absolutely, to go to those parts that are trying to protect that. So
because of that, I figured then when I noticed that I couldn't go to it anymore, that though that like further protection mechanisms came up, I figured, okay, maybe time just isn't right just yet. Right. Okay. Yeah. Well then, yes, I totally agree with that approach of, yeah, if there's stuff getting in the way, then we need to look at those things. Is any of that helpful? I know I talked a lot. Very much so. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Well, yeah, I would love to continue hearing your progress and working with you. So,
me too. Then
find some time on that calendar.
We'll hear each other again, I think, in a week.
Great. Okay. Looking forward to it.
Perfect. Me too.
Okay. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.